So hello, everyone. My name is Phil Havlik, and today's presentation is Digital Citizenship for an Online World. Before we get too far started, if you wouldn't mind, if everyone could just make sure that your line is muted just to avoid any unnecessary background feedback or office noise or really noisy squirrels that might be sitting outside your office. We'd appreciate that. Also, just as a quick reminder too, this session will be available for later playback on YouTube after we conclude today's session. So if you miss anything, you need to step away or just step out entirely. Just know that you'll be able to watch everything from start to finish again to your heart's content. So as I mentioned, my name is Phil Havlik. There's my bright shining mug. I manage the Learning Center here at PolicyStat, and you can find me on Twitter at Havlik or via LinkedIn if you're so interested, and if you still want to talk to me after I'm done with this presentation, that'd be awesome. So we're going to start today by talking about digital citizenship. So we're here so the question of the day is, what is digital citizenship, and why should you really care? Do you get a digital driver's license? Do you have to pay digital taxes? The site digitalcitizenship.net defines digital citizenship as the norms of appropriate, responsible behavior with regard to technology use. There we go. Digitalcitizenship.net, I say that 3 times fast, also defines 9 elements or themes of what defines good digital citizenship. The 9 elements are categorized under the headings of respect, educate, and protect. As you can probably note, each of these apply to respecting, educating, and protecting both yourself and others in the process as well. So all that's great and good, but you may still be asking, why should I care about digital citizenship? What's in it for me? And isn't digital citizenship just a program my kids learn in school? Yes, digital citizenship programs are major initiatives in K-12 schools. And most digital citizenship programs you find focus on teaching students core digital citizenship skills and appropriate use of technology in all grades and subjects. That said, the reality is that the line between the digital world and the real physical world is getting increasingly blurred. Some days we may even question whether or not the line still exists at all. So hopefully, probably won't have to tell the group, but retailers like Amazon have moved commerce online with getting better deals, and they're closing brick and mortar stores nationwide. Each year, Cyber Monday threatens to overtake Black Friday for the best holiday deals. The news cycle has to be digital in order to keep up with demand, leaving newspapers and magazines trying to keep up with short attention spans. The benefit of that is that benefits of the short attention spans and the quick news versus the cost to legitimate journalism can be debated, but that's probably a topic for another discussion, another presentation. So families, friends, and colleagues all carry on conversations within cyberspace. I personally have several colleagues who I communicate with daily who are located in Europe and Canada. So I'm sure many of us in our audience today have technical communications translated for a global audience on a regular basis. And if you were to walk into any gathering area, say if you tomorrow morning on your next Starbucks run, and count the number of adults, not just kids and teens, who are passing the minutes until their latte is ready by checking out Facebook on their phones or playing a digital game, sending an email, text, anything like that, it's hard to limit the importance of digital citizenship as a topic just for schools and for kids. As another example, try following a trending hashtag on Twitter for any major national or global event, like a presidential debate, the Olympics, the Super Bowl, or the World Cup. And just try and keep up with its stream of tweets. It's nearly impossible to pull off. So I screen captured this little image here to show it the other day. And in the time it took me to screen capture it, so just a few moments it did, 20 new tweets were posted to Twitter with the hashtag Charlottesville. In fact, let's take a quick look right now at my tweet deck here. Hopefully everybody can see this. Let me refresh it here real quick. And just watch everything kind of continue to flow here as the screen reloads. The idea being is that trying to keep up with some of this information sometimes is like trying to drink from the proverbial fire hose. It's impossible to there we go. Charlottesville is really kicking in there with tweets coming out nearly every second or every few seconds, stuff like that. It's really, you really need to make sure to stay on top of this information. To try and stay on top of the information, you have to really keep up with a pretty fast pace. With all those impulsive tweets chiming in, the internet lasts forever. You can delete the tweet, you can delete the post, but more often than not, there will still be scars remaining behind. We'll talk a little bit more about those scars in just a few moments. This quote comes from Dr. Mike Ribble, who's writing on digitalcitizenship.org. One of these days, I'm going to get that said right. And this addresses how broad the reach of digital citizenship is. The need to support healthy use of technology is not limited to just one country or culture. Users immersed in technology are beginning to organize themselves into their own society of digital citizens. These people have their own language, methods of interaction, and social structure. Some are heavily involved while others come and go as they wish, but it's becoming clearer that these users are creating the foundation of a new worldwide digital economy. And just like citizenship in the physical world, you can be as involved and active as you desire. You can cast your votes, you can share your opinions, you can drive conversations about issues you care about, you can choose to interact with the culture, or you can simply choose to be a hermit and isolate yourself from the rest of the citizenry. How active you are is up to you, but there's no question that the reach of this culture is extensive and growing. While each of the 9 elements carry their own importance and value, and I don't want to downplay any one of them, today's presentation, we're going to pull one area of focus from each of these 3 categories. We're going to jump around a little bit here in terms of the order, but we're going to first discuss communication and how your personal digital data file is built. We'll then discuss how following strong safety and security practices help to protect you and secure your digital file, and the other digital citizens close to you who are impacted by you and the actions you take. And finally, we'll talk about how laws and ethics define what is yours and how to respect the property of others that isn't yours. So we'll start the discussion today first by focusing on communication, specifically how you build and maintain your digital data file and your digital story that comes with it. There are traces of you left behind anytime you post information online or someone else posts online about you, and those help to make up your digital data file, your digital story, and your life as a digital citizen. And unless this is your first day in the world after a lifetime spent in a cave, this digital story didn't just start today. Your digital file is probably filled with plenty of content. The story also probably didn't start yesterday, last week, last month, or even last year. It's probably been around and growing a lot longer than that. To put this digital data and the digital footprint left behind in perspective, let's imagine the digital story of a baby born today. We'll call her Amelia. And full disclosure, that is the name of one of my amazing daughters, though this is not my amazing family photo. And my Amelia smiles nicely, but I cannot recall a time when she ever sat that still, especially when she was that young. So Amelia's digital data file starts before she's even born. When her mother is still pregnant, the obstetrician takes an ultrasound record of her development in the womb. Digital data is compiled during the session about measuring her growth, tracking her developmental status, documenting her gender, and any of those critical growth measurement status. And as with most new and excited parents, they will share new photos of Amelia in the womb with their friends, relatives, and possibly even coworkers, so everyone can share in their joy. They may even choose to post those photos on social media for a larger audience to see as well. As Amelia is born and joins the real world, the code on her foot bracelet applied in the hospital adds to that digital data file. It provides the nurses who care for her and her mother with all the essentials they need to know, including her gender, weight, time of birth, blood type, surname, and so on. This digital data will be added to both the physical files and the digital file, which will be passed along to Amelia's pediatrician as she grows older. Again, as with most new births, friends and family will come to visit Amelia in the hospital. And how could they resist taking pictures of the newest entry into the world with their digital cameras, or more likely, the digital cameras on their phones? They'll choose to share these files directly with their friends and family, or to social media sites so others can share in the joy of the birth. Amelia's parents may send text messages to their friends, family, and coworkers to announce her birth. Those messages will most likely contain more photos because who can resist? While adorable, all of these new photos, data, and records are added to Amelia's digital data file and are already writing the digital story of Amelia's young life within her first 24 to 48 hours in the physical world. Capturing, sharing, and spreading of photos of Amelia will continue for the rest of her life. The first time she stands, she sits, she walks, or she talks. All of the photos and stories will be added to her digital data file. And as she grows, she will independently share information on her own. She'll create an account on sites such as abcmouse.com, where she can learn new things about the world around her and how it works. And when she fills out the registration forms, she'll complete the registration that's required and give information like her name, age, date of birth, phone number, and country. Some of these items are not required for registration, but she'll give them anyway because the site asks for it. And as Amelia grows and becomes a preteen, she joins Facebook. She uploads pictures and videos. She provides information about where she is and what she's doing. She shares what she likes and comments on things she doesn't like. She's tagged on photos or in photos by friends and uses her Facebook profile to generate a single sign-on to prevent needing to create a new username and password for certain sites. She uses Google to complete research for her school, and Google tracks her search results, interests, and other location data tied to her Google account. She uses Gmail to send and receive email and posts some musings on Google+. After a period of time, she moves on to a new social media site and forgets about her account, but the data that was there stays behind. And when she gets to college, she uses Amazon to purchase her books, classroom materials, and other items necessary for living independently. With those purchases, Amazon collects data about her mailing address, credit card, the dates, and locations where she made the purchases. This information is all filed in her digital data file, and also Amazon's, Google's, and Facebook's, which can help to target ads specifically to her, but that's a different digital data story for the moment. The GPS in her cell phone enables her service provider to know where she has been lately and how often she goes there. When she goes places in public, security cameras film her movements. All of this data adds to the digital data file and the digital story of Amelia's life. After college and starting her career, Amelia falls in love and decides to get married. Her digital data file will now include her husband and all of his digital data as well. And after a period of marital bliss and furthering her successful career, Amelia and her husband decide to start a family. With the birth of their new baby, the collection cycle for all the data starts all over again. Their family digital data file will include data about their child. In addition, their daughter will start her own new digital data file. And after a long and happy life filled with creating blogs and web pages, shared memories with friends, watching and documenting as her children and grandchildren grow, and all the pleasures of being alive in the digital age, Amelia's physical life will come to an end. However, even after she's gone, her digital data file will continue to grow, even after she is no longer able to contribute to or to control it. Friends will send digital condolences to her family and share thoughts and memories of her life online through chats and comments. Digital albums will be created to compile memories of her life, and records of her life and existence and her data will live on forever. Her family and descendants will use her likeness and digital data file to compile family history for decades to come, and her digital footprint will live on forever. And while thinking of the permanence of these digital data files and footprints, another way to think about all this is more like your digital or electronic tattoo. It's often creative designs and patterns that tell unique stories about you, often without specific words. And some aspects of the tattoo are created and designed by you, but some are formed by data that is collected by companies like Facebook, Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, Amazon, those security cameras at work on the streets or stores, your credit card purchasing history, or tracking the data from your GPS tracker on your phone. All of these leave permanent records of who you are, where you've been, what you like or don't like, and they cannot be easily erased. You may be able to delete some of these things. You may be able to delete some social media posts. Erased. The digital tattoos will live on far longer than you will. When it comes to what you say online, I really like this quote from Mitch Gerads, who is a comic book artist who's worked on comics for Marvel, DC, and many others. As a presence on the internet, I'm pretty sure he's likely a guy who's endured his fair share of trolls and criticism for the work that he's done. How you behave online is how you are in real life. That's you. There's no separation. You're a person who says those kind of things. People like to believe that they can hide in anonymity with their posts, or that writing online gives them a greater sense of power just because they don't need to look at the person in the face while they write crude, insulting, or otherwise harmful things about them. But in truth, if you're willing to think or say those things, that is a representation of who you really are, despite what you may tell yourself to the contrary. You may think you have a good idea and a strong control over what your digital tattoo holds, but how much control do you really have? So I'd like to take a few moments here to let you guys take a break from listening to me talk and have you all discover what your digital tattoo really looks like. So what I'd like for you to do is to use your favorite search engine, whether it's Google, Bing, or Yahoo, and type your first and last name in. So if you're logged into a browser with your personal Google, Microsoft, or Yahoo account, so try an incognito window to get a better view of what the world sees. And after you've tried your preferred search engine, try another one and see if the results vary. So before I set you free on that task, don't limit yourself to text. Recommend you search for images as well, and search for any variations of your name or other names you may have used. If there's a maiden name, a nickname, try it with a middle name or an initial. Search for any personal domain names you might have or sites you frequent. Maybe, for example, an organization you belong to, like STC. Review what others have posted about you in comments, pictures, or so on from there. So that said, I'll give you guys just a few minutes here. So open up an incognito window if you would, and just try doing a search for your name, see what comes up. And we'll jump back together here in just about 5 minutes. So I'll set a timer right now. We'll go from there. We'll just keep it to 3 minutes. 5 might have been a little bit long. All right, is my audio coming through? It says audio still connecting.
Loud and clear. And
all right.
I started the recording back up.
Perfect. All right. So use it raising your hand, or I guess in this case, typing in the chat box. So let me ask, how many of you found something when searching that something you didn't expect to know about yourself or didn't expect to see about yourself? Excellent. So a few responses there. How many of you found something that you were really proud of show up prominently in the results near the top? Wonderful. And how many of you found something that maybe you weren't so proud of appearing prominently in the results? I'll assume that there's probably a few out there. So think about the information that your digital tattoo holds. Does it reflect the reputation you want to have? If not, what's missing from it? And Is the reputation that you see, is it accurate? If not, what should be deleted or corrected? Do you need to have more than one online profile, whether it's professional, personal, or something to show off an area of interest, like a hobby or volunteer work? And if you do have those, is it okay to mix information from your different profiles? Could your personal opinions or stances that you take impact your professional life? Could they work towards your benefit or detract from what you'd like your colleagues, clients, or others to see? Do you want your profiles to be public or more private? The website Stop, Think, Connect hosts the Own Your Online Presence campaign, which encourages digital citizens to better understand how to manage their digital lives with simple, actionable steps. This link is in the handout for today's session, but I just wanted to kind of highlight this page here. This is really, if this topic is something of interest to you, the Stop, Think, Connect is a great resource for further information about this, but there is a link to this in the handout for today's session as well. So owning your own online presence is about actively managing your privacy and staying current with new ways to stay safe online, such as using available tools like privacy and security settings to manage who sees the things that you post online and with whom you share your information. So you can own your online presence by first and foremost thinking of your information, your personal information, like money. That's something that's valued. You should protect it. Be thoughtful about who gets that information and how it's collected through apps and websites. We also recommend staying aware of what's being shared by setting and continuing to check the privacy and security settings on web services and devices to your comfort level for information sharing. It's okay to limit how and with whom you share information. I always use the rule of thumb that my solitaire iPhone game doesn't really need to track my location in the world at any given point in time. So also share with care. Think before posting about yourself and others online. Consider what a post will reveal, who might see it, and how it could be perceived both now and in the future. And finally, apply the golden rule online. Post only about others as you would have them post about you. It's worked already for thousands of years since biblical times, so hopefully it should still apply today. So now we've captured a glimpse of the scope of your digital tattoo and the immense weight and power that it carries with it. Kind of a lot of pressure. So how do you protect it? And how can you be safe with knowing and controlling the availability and scope of the range and distribution of your information? How strong or weak are your personal practices for safety and security for your online data? These findings come from 2 national studies. A national survey on online behaviors and attitudes from the National Cybersecurity Alliance and the Anti-Phishing Working Group, and a 2-phase national survey on messaging surrounding online privacy for the NCSA, which is the first group I mentioned there. Based upon the results of these studies, it's good that the respondents felt a sense of personal responsibility and awareness of their power and their actions. So let's do a quick informal survey. And again, if you're comfortable with this, you can go ahead and type your answers in the chat box, but no pressure. How many of you have reused the same password on multiple sites? How many of you share passwords with family, friends, or coworkers? Seeing a mix of results. How many of you lock your smartphone? All right. And how many of you have or have in the past or continue to do shopping or banking on open public Wi-Fi? Good. That one's, I see a lot of nopes. That's good. So to contrast the best beliefs of those initial users from that survey, the actual conditions probably run contrary, what they actually do probably runs contrary to the ideals that they initially professed in their responses to that survey. All of these actions represent dangerous behaviors that risk exposing critical personal data. And the danger is more than just a hacker reading your email or an annoying visit to your cellular provider in order to buy a new phone if the previous one was stolen. Once hackers have access to your information, reclaiming your digital and financial identity can be an extremely long, painful, and costly process. So the topics in this section are presented by the Global Online Safety Awareness Campaign titled Stop, Think, Connect, the site we just looked at before. The website, as I mentioned before, has an amazing amount of advice, tip sheets, and other resources for free distribution. We won't cover all of the broad topics addressed on the site, but the first ones we're going to talk about is keeping a clean machine. This topic is about regularly updating and securing your files and ensuring that your settings are kept up to date. One of the best methods to keeping your machine clean is to update, update, update. So many hardware, so your computers, your phones, and software applications have automatic update settings that don't require any intervention from you. Maintaining the latest patches and updates provides the best protection against known threats, viruses, and online threats. This includes your operating system. Your operating system will vary based upon the device that you have. So iPhones run the iOS operating system. Android phones run on a variation of Android. There's kind of a wide range of versions. And your computers are either Mac OS, a version of Windows, or possibly the Chrome operating system as well, if you use a Chromebook. Earlier this summer, the WannaCry virus attacked computers worldwide, locking users out of their computers and holding their data for ransom. Subsequent research found that 98% of the computers targeted were running Windows 7. And Windows 7 was initially released to the public in 2009. Microsoft ended all support and updates for Windows 7 in 2015. Upgrading to Windows 10, the latest offering, was actually made free to the public. However, Windows 7 still remains the most popular operating system worldwide at 49% of all computers, despite all the vulnerabilities, despite the fact that the viruses are such as the WannaCry completely took over their machines. It's still the most popular single operating system in the world. You may or may not have heard of the term Internet of Things, or IoT. This term refers to any object or device that connects to the internet to automatically send and or receive data. This can range from the important, such as your computer, to the unimportant, for example, your hairbrush or salt shaker. Yes, there is a smart salt shaker that actually works to provide mood lighting and plays music while you dine, in addition to dispensing proper amounts of salt for your food. Some of these things can be practical, like the Nest Smart Home Thermometer, or smart appliances that you can be used to view what's actually inside your fridge while you're at the store, or to preheat the oven for you while you're on the run. You may even have something like a Ring security system, where with a security camera that can monitor your front door from work if anyone rings your doorbell or steps on your front steps, or even a wireless printer. My family has an Amazon Echo, which seems to exist solely because my children like talking to Alexa. All of these options provide convenience to help with free time from the mundane to allow for more additional free time, or just straight up convenience. However, unsecured or weakly secured devices provide opportunities for cyber criminals to intrude upon private networks and gain access to these other devices and information attached to these networks. So if you have devices that use the default password or an open Wi-Fi connection, both of those are easy targets for cyber actors or cyber hackers to exploit. Whenever possible, we recommend monitoring and adjusting the security settings for your connected devices to prevent unwanted access. Or you can also just ask yourself, can you brush and maintain your hair quality with just a dumb hairbrush that doesn't need to connect to the internet? The next topic is about locking down your login. Incidentally, lockdownyourlogin.org is another great resource site from the same group who put together the Stop, Think, Connect, and that link is also in the handout for today as well. Within this topic, we're going to talk about the importance of passphrases, using unique passphrases when you do use them, and taking your security beyond just passphrases. Just about any site on the internet today requires an account that also requires you to create an account that also requires a password. Using an easy to remember password makes this process easy. However, those passwords are not only easy to remember, but consequently pretty easy to hack as well. If your password for any site is the word password itself, QWERTY, which is the series of keys at the top left of your keyboard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or similar options that you think are clever, you're probably not so clever, and you're probably not the only one. When it comes to securing passwords, as a rule of thumb, longer will always be better. The more characters in a password, the harder it will be to crack. And a better way to think about adding characters is through using passphrases instead of passwords. Let's say you're creating a passphrase for logging into an awesome organization, such as the IDL SIG. Start off with your base word there. Let's add some words around it to make more sense in a meaningful way. Let's take it one step further with some additional words. Length is good, but we can work to make this even better. So here we added some capitals to the words to provide some even greater strength. Now we'll throw in some punctuation for some creative flair. This could be as simple as an exclamation point thrown out at the beginning or the end, but I personally like to throw in a few other characters just where it logically makes sense in my mind. And just to show off a little bit, I made this even better and even more secure by adding additional characters as well. So you can use your own phrases and patterns that work for you. But if nothing else, simply extending the length of your passphrase to increase the complexity is a huge first step towards securing your passwords. So knowing that each site requires unique login sounds great and easy on the surface. However, think about all the sites and services you have subscriptions for. It's a lot of unique passwords to remember. So you start to reuse passwords to make it easy. No one knows that you have a child named Johnny or that his birthday is August 25th of 2006. So you may choose to get really crafty and keep the same easily predictable patterns each time with slight differences. Easy to remember, and it works over here, so why not there? I'm not really a target, so I'll just use the dog's name plus Amazon, or the dog's name plus Twitter. They'll never figure that out. But then Best Buy's system gets hacked, and 1 million+ passwords are exposed to the web, including yours. Now that same login and password used everywhere is exposed. The same is true for your entire digital life, including your bank account, because each of those accounts use the same string of letters and numbers. Or even if you use a slightly different password each time, a determined hacker can probably figure out the pattern pretty easily and crack it. A password manager makes good security as easy as possible. All you need to remember is one master password, so you want to make it a good one, and the password manager handles the rest. Password managers should not only store, but they can also generate and save long, unique passwords for every account you need across the internet. Some of those popular offerings are listed here. I personally use LastPass, and actually I believe it's going up to $2 a month now too in the near future. But 1Password and Dashlane are really phenomenal offerings as well. It's really just kind of a matter of personal preference. They all have pros and cons, so I can't really advocate for one or the other, but I cannot stress enough how helpful and important these are to the security of your logins. And more than anything else, your password or passphrase is your first and best line of defense to securing your data. Adding two-factor authentication adds a second level of security when you log into a site or an application. Entering a username and password represents single-factor authentication. And for many sites, that's it, and maybe all that you really need. But using two-factor authentication, or 2FA, adds an additional layer of security by requiring a second form of authentication. But many sites, especially those who contain more of your secure personal data, are now adding the option under your account's security settings to add that two-factor authentication in. If you've gone to the gas station lately, you probably have been required to enter your zip code if you pay at the pump using a credit card. Beyond just being the person holding the card, the second step assists to verify that you are who you say you are. When 2FA is enabled, After you type your password, you're then required to enter a code from a secondary location. These codes are often generated by an app such as Google Authenticator or Authy, or possibly even a SMS text message. Or there are some instances with external devices like key fobs as well. These codes will either expire or regenerate as new in short intervals. For many of the authenticator apps, it's anywhere typically between about 30 to 60 seconds. For text messages, typically between about 1 to 5 minutes. To be at your safest, I'd recommend either an authenticator app or a key fob versus the text message method, but that may vary based upon the site or your level of access. When you do connect to the web, ensure that you're connecting with care. By a quick survey using the chat feature, which of these links do you think would probably be your best bet for all things Microsoft? So 1, 2, 3, or 4. I see those kind of light there, but put your enter in the box. I see a bunch of 3s. All right, so 3 seems to have won for the moment. The URL spelled correctly looks right. So let's click it and find out where it goes. Yeah, come on, Microsoft. And no, we have been rickrolled. Even if the URL is spelled right and looks correct, the link appearance doesn't always equate to be what it appears to be. So this first option here brings us to Apple. Second option brings us to Google. I won't bother you with clicking it. And the fourth option brings us to, I forget where I sent this for everything here, to Netflix. So just because it looks right, the link doesn't always equate to what it will actually be. So as a general best practice, before you click a link, especially if it's something you don't quite know where you're going, you want to hover over the link first. And down in the bottom, and I can't quite point in 2 places at the same time, but you can hopefully see there in the bottom, along the Google Chrome window there, that the URL is spelled out down there. The actual appearance will vary based upon what type of browser you're using or what settings you have, but especially if it's an instance where you're unsure of the source of the link, recommend using extreme caution before you click. So attempts by cyber criminals, nation states, or hacktivists to lure you into giving away personal information to gain access to your accounts or to infect your machine with malware and viruses is referred to as phishing. Most email and social media sites contain filters to hopefully eliminate most of the malicious messages and links before it even gets to you, but these messages still do get through. Your best resource is to have yourself. The best resource you have is yourself and your own best judgment. So I recommend staying vigilant and trusting your instincts. Most phishing email attempts will try to trigger an emotional response, such as a click now or else type of emotion in order to get you to respond without properly stopping and thinking things through. Good thing to keep an eye out for is incorrect or generic greetings. A message from your bank regarding your account will probably likely be addressed specifically to you, not just to dear sir or madam or dear client. If you see spelling or grammatical errors from a professional organization, it's definitely a warning sign. We're all technical communicators, so we should hopefully have a keen eye for watching out for those spelling errors already. And think twice about clicking a link or opening a document that seems suspicious. Double check that every URL where you enter your password looks legitimate. And if anything raises doubt, delete or report the communication. If you're really not sure, contact the organization directly via phone or a trusted site in order to verify the authenticity of the message. Just a few months ago, an email spread extremely quickly across the internet by way of an amazingly authentic looking link to a Google Drive file. Once the link in the email was clicked, the victims were presented with a login screen that looked amazingly authentic. After that click, the original email was cloned and sent to everyone in the victim's address book. I use the term amazingly authentic because I, in fact, was a victim of this attack. We use the Google Suite at my office, and I clicked the link without following my own personal proper protocol for a number of reasons, but mostly because I let my guard down for a minute. And finally, if you receive a phishing message, report it. For personal email, Gmail has a link to report messages as spam, and if applicable or possible, advise your local IT department. Spread the word to help others from falling victim to the same attack. Unless you pay for an unlimited data plan, we all hate having data limits imposed by our wireless carriers, but we all still feel the need to stay connected constantly. Or sometimes you just want to quickly pay that online bill or verify with the bank that the check cleared. That free Wi-Fi hotspot can be extremely tempting, but that extremely tempting circumstance can also cost you pretty dearly. It's actually pretty easy for someone within range of your location to create a fake network and call it free Wi-Fi. Or they may use some close variation of the name of the nearby venue that looks awfully close to the same thing. As you can see over here on the iOS version, that's McDonald's, not the Golden Arches. In preparing for this, I also Googled create fake Wi-Fi hotspot and received about 14.5 million results, including tons of YouTube demonstrations as to how to pull this off. Once the hacker has enticed you to join their network, they can use what's called a man-in-the-middle attack to intercept and watch everything you do while you're connected to their network. This includes monitoring your keystrokes when you enter your bank account number, your personal login, your password, and all that stuff that summarizes in your account. Do your homework before you connect to the free Wi-Fi. If you're sitting in a coffee shop or a public library, verify you're connecting to the correct network by talking to the staff or by checking the signage before you connect. And if the Wi-Fi does not use a secured encryption, you're equally exposed. Maybe wait to check your account or to make that online purchase via credit card until you're working from a trusted, secured account with a network that uses hopefully a strong password as well. On the same topic of finance, sites that require you to enter personally identifiable information, including your social security number, credit card information, or even your address, must have a secure connection. So you want to look for the lock icon in the left of the address bar. So for here, if you look up here, it says secure. That's what it looks like in Chrome. And an S around the HTTP as well. It can either be in the front or in the back. With a regular HTTP connection, the data passed between your computer and the servers where the website data resides is open and can be stolen by unwanted third parties. With a secure connection, noted with the extra S and the lock icon, the computer and the server agree on a code that encrypts the data being transferred between each side to make it harder, if not impossible, to gain access to the information. Our final topic for today is law. So digital law deals with the ethics of technology within a society. Unethical use manifests itself in the form of theft and or crime. Ethical use manifests itself in the form of abiding by the laws of the society. Users need to understand that stealing or causing damage to other people's work, identity, or property online is a crime. There are certain rules of society that users need to be aware of in an ethical society, and that includes hacking into others' information. Those laws apply to anyone who works or plays online, hacking into others' information, downloading illegal music, plagiarizing, creating destructive worms, viruses, or creating Trojan horses, sending spam, or stealing anyone's identity or property is both unethical and straight up illegal. So today's discussion will focus primarily on the basics of United States copyright law and how that tracks back to what you can or should not use on the internet. Just because you can download it or copy it or paste it doesn't mean that you should. Before we begin, I make absolutely no claims at all to know anything more than the basics about copyright. I am not a lawyer. I didn't stay at the Holiday Inn Express last night, and I probably personally misused many images without proper legal accreditation during college and maybe even in the past few years as well. We'll focus on the concepts at a high level and provide you links and suggestions where you can get more information from within the handout. So we're starting with a few quick questions here with the What'd You Know? Michael Feldman's What'd You Know? It's one of my dad's favorite NPR quiz shows. So in tribute to my dad, we're doing What'd You Know? So first question for the group, using A, B, C, or D. If you don't see a symbol associated with a piece of work, you can assume that A, B, C, or D. Which one do you think? So if there's no symbols or notation on there, it is in the public domain. It is licensed under Creative Commons, protected by copyright, or it is free to use. All right, the correct answer is C. It is protected by copyright. If you don't see any symbols attached to it, you have to go with the assumption that it is protected by copyright. I purchased a song from iTunes or I own the CD. I can use that song on my website or in my presentation. True or false? Correct answer is false. Owning a copy of the track is not equivalent to owning rights to use it for whatever you like. If you read the terms and conditions behind your purchases, like we all of course do, those purchases grant you rights to listen for your personal playback only, and associating a track with a website or presentation is a violation of copyright. It's not supposed to be broadcast in a setting for multiple people because you're taking away the opportunity for the artist to come in and make a profit. Unless you purchase the music specifically for broadcasting, which, full disclosure, I don't really know how that's done, you shouldn't play it for large groups, including streaming music or large groups and gatherings. Fair use clauses may allow you to use a small clip from the song, but it also requires you to meet the requirements of fair use, which more often than not, you will not. You hear about this every campaign season when a politician is served with a cease and desist order to stop using an artist's music. And side note, but if anyone from campaigns would listen to or read the actual lyrics of Born in the USA, they probably wouldn't always want to use it because Bruce tells a good story, but is not as patriotic as they may think, but I digress. So third question, works in the public domain can be used for free without attributing the source. True or false? Got a few takers. All right, this one is actually true. We'll cover a little bit more on public domain shortly, but you can use any works in the public domain without any royalty fees or without even attributing the source. That said, for all of the many images that have appeared throughout this slideshow gathered from the public domain, I have made sure to provide the original URLs in the slides and in the handout as well. So no attribution necessary when it's in the public domain. So to kick it off, when we talk about copyright, what are we talking about? According to copyright.gov, copyright is a form of protection grounded in the U.S. Constitution and granted by law for original works of authorship fixed in a tangible medium of expression. And copyright covers both published and unpublished works. What is protected by copyright? You have original works of authorship, such as literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic works like poetry, novels, movies, songs, computer software, and architecture. Copyright does not serve to protect facts, ideas, systems, or methods of operations, but it may protect the way that these things are expressed. And when does copyright protection start? Right now. The moment it is created created and fixed in a tangible form that is perceptible either directly or with the aid of a machine or device. A small side note here that I did quickly research this and found that while there is not a definitive legal answer yet as to whether or not GIFs count as copyright infringement, it is generally believed that it would be considered fair use, which is all to address the further point that there's a lot of unknowns in the age of the internet. The material is out there. It's easy to grab, take, and reuse, more so now than ever. So again, all this is a quick overview to give you some options that you can hopefully start the wheel spinning so you can look and try and use to be a little bit more digitally ethical and digitally legal. I keep saying that word wrong. To help explain copyright, we're going to use a scenario where I took this picture of my dog and I posted it online. Because this is my picture and my dog, and because I'm the creator of this, I own the copyright to this image. This means I have copyright over how other people use this photo. In the eyes of copyright law, this photo is considered all rights reserved. If anyone else wanted to show off this magnificent beast, they would have to get my permission before they can copy, print, or use this picture for any reason. But what if I wanted others to be able to use this photo legally without fear of retribution? What if I wanted to define the terms as to how they could use it with my permission and what they needed to credit me for? If I wanted to give this to others the right to share, use, and even build upon this picture, I can also publish it under what's called a Creative Commons license. Depending upon the settings I choose, a Creative Commons license will let me decide which rights I'd like to keep, and it clearly conveys to those using my work as to how they're permitted to use it without the need to necessarily ask in advance. One thing to note here, though, too, with Creative Commons, it kind of runs in parallel to copyright law. So it's saying like you're okay to use it, but also still retains certain boundaries. It's legally covered, but it's separate. It's a separate issue. It's a nonprofit organization. I would recommend checking out their creativecommons.org for some great additional information about how Creative Commons works a little bit more specifically. There are 4 basic conditions to know regarding Creative Commons. First, we have the ability to set an attribution license. So all Creative Commons licenses require that others who use your work in any way must give you credit the way you request, but not in the way that suggests that you endorse them or their use. If they want to use your work without giving you credit or for endorsement purposes, they must get your permission first if you use the attribution license. With a share-alike license, you let others copy, distribute, and display, perform, and modify your work as long as they distribute any modified work under the same terms. If they want to distribute modified works under other terms, they must get your permissions first. The no derivatives license, you let others copy, distribute, display, and perform only original copies of your work. If they want to modify your work, then they must get your permission first. Finally, non-commercial, you let others copy, distribute, display, perform, and unless you have chosen a no derivatives model option as well, to modify and use your work for any purpose other than commercially, unless they get your permission first. These are the 4 basic ones. There's some kind of combinations and ways they all meld together, but for the purposes of today's discussion, just wanted to hit on the four main ones from that side. And finally, imagine you want the photo to be freely used by all without people having to follow any special requirements or guidelines. In that case, I would release this photo into the public domain, which allows others to use my photo however they want to because it is no longer protected by copyrights. Copyrights don't last forever, so works often count as public domain after a certain time period. Works from the US government are also considered in the public domain as well. When determining whether an infringement should be excused on the basis of fair use, a court will often use several factors, including the purpose and character of the use, the amount of substantial and the amount of the work borrowed, and the effect of the use in the market for the copyright materials. So fair use is the principle that excuses unauthorized uses of work when used for transformative purposes, such as research, scholarship, parody, criticism, or journalism. Frequently, too, a lot of schools and educators especially will assume that they can just kind of show that Disney movie, steal those Disney characters or Nickelodeon characters, or just put them in there because it's for education and everything's, they're covered by fair use because it's for scholarship purposes. Not really the case. Unfortunately, Disney, as much as many of the resources they do have, they don't have the ability to run around to every school across the United States and stop everyone from showing Moana on the last day of school. But needless to say, it is in violation of copyright. It is not necessarily open and protected just because of fair use, regardless of kind of that myth that's floating out there from that side. Especially if you are working for a for-profit company, as I assume most of us are, this presents a really sticky situation. Fair use protects content used for commentary, criticism, or parody, and presumably most technical writers will not be writing too much parody or criticism from that side as well. That said, it's probably good to know more about this option, and it's generally not going to help you. So if you have questions about this, I would recommend digging into some of those resources we have there in the handout as well. So current copyright law as it stands now protects nearly all text, images, and audio-visual recordings and other materials, even if the original works do not include any statements about copyright. Copying and posting copyrighted works online, even for instructional purposes, may violate the legal rights of the copyright owners. Nevertheless, anyone serving as an instructor will have several legal alternatives for teaching with protected and other works online, including, number one, securing information from the copyright owner, so getting that thumbs up. You can also work to link to materials on other sites rather than copying and pasting and posting them directly from your site. You can always just use that hyperlink to send others there. You can use material proven to be in the public domain. And you can lawfully use protected materials after a thorough fair use analysis. When working with images, you can always also create your own, much like I did here with the fair use icon. I thought about trying to match the public domain icon with the abbreviated labeling, but then I thought better of that and just decided to write the whole words out. So hope everyone appreciates that. The following information comes from the Stanford University Libraries and provides 5 basic ways to stay out of trouble when working with online content. So as a general rule, it's wise to operate under the assumption that all works are protected by either copyright or trademark law unless conclusive information indicates otherwise. A work is not in the public domain simply because it has been posted on the internet, which is a popular fallacy, or because it lacks copyright notice, which is also a myth, as we talked about before. Do not assume that clip art, shareware, freeware, or materials labeled as royalty-free or copyright-free can be distributed without authorization. We recommend you read the terms and conditions or any click-to-accept agreements, which are often called click-wrap agreements, or README files ordinarily accompanying such materials to be certain that your intended use is permitted. We all know it's far easier to check the box than it takes time to read the legalese, but really it can help save yourself some time and possibly some legal action depending upon the scope of use of the materials. If someone complains about unauthorized use on your website, you should remove the offending material immediately. In the case of unauthorized uploads, downloads, or links, the webmaster should disable access to the offending material or link. This is not to imply that you should immediately cave into every complaint that comes in. However, you should remove the material for the period during which you investigate the claim, and if necessary, consult with an attorney or legal advisor. Attempts to contain the damage will likely help your case should it find its way into the court. And continuing to use the offensive material after being notified may aggravate the claim and the chances of you being found liable, and increase the amount of damages that you may have to pay. Many webmasters manage personal websites or sites for small organizations, such as, for example, maybe a local tennis team or drama team, soccer team, something like that. Do all of the rules on copyright and permissions apply to all these intimate or personal uses? So, for example, is permission needed to reproduce a photo taken by a club member or a friend or a relative? In short, the quick answer is legally yes, practically maybe. Copyright protection extends to any original work regardless of who created it, and permission is required for reproduction, display, or distribution of the work. One of the main reasons for acquiring permission is to avoid a lawsuit, and if the webmaster is confident that a friend or family member has consented to use, the concern over a lawsuit diminishes, as does the need for formal written permission agreement. Oral consents are valid, although sometimes difficult to prove, but if you're in doubt about the use of anything, always seek written permission, even if the material comes from a friend or relative as well. I said 5, I guess there was only 4, sorry. I lied. All right, so let's do a quick summary here to wrap up. I know this has been a lot of information I've dumped on your laps within the period of an hour. So let's do a quick summary. Hopefully this presentation has provided some food for thought about what your place in the online world is and what your digital citizenship looks like and why it's important. Hopefully you can leave more educated and responsive about your forms of digital communication and the appearance of your digital tattoo to the world. It's more about what you share with just your friends. It's about what the digital world views you as and what traces that leaves behind. Hopefully you also learned a little bit more about how to protect your digital data and protecting the data of others around you. And finally, you can hopefully also leave here today with a little bit more respect for the rights of the works that you own, and especially those of others. And because we're all in this together, whether we like it or not now, we are all a part of the digital world, We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make it a brighter day, so let's start living. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true. We'll make it a better day, just you and me. Thank you all very much for your patience and attention today. Hopefully this is beneficial. Any questions?
Thanks. Can we all do a group hug now after singing that song?
It's a virtual one. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Very good.
So how about a round of applause for Phil? I'm
Thank
clapping
you.
near my microphone. There we go. Oh, we have some applause typed into the chat window.
There we go. We'll take it whatever way we can get it. I'll take it. So, all right. Any questions?
So I want to interject. This is Vicki. I just want to interject that you're going to get an email in a couple of hours with the link to the recording and the link to the handout. And we're adding something new. We're starting to take surveys after our presentation so that we can A, figure out how we did well, and B, make the next one even better. So when you get the email, don't ignore it, don't delete it, please do the survey. That's the end of my commercial.
All opinions are expressly our own.
Mm-hmm. And I'll appreciate them however they may come in. Yep.
Well, thank you, Phil. This is Todd. I appreciate the update and the citizenship thing. Although
Absolutely.
no one answered my question on, I said you said it was it wasn't McDonald's, and I asked it was McDougal's, but no one answered what movie that was.
That is Coming to America, isn't it?
Very good.
All right.
That's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, I had to Google that.
I was like
I figured
4
it
at
was
the
cheating.
time,
Okay.
but I remember.
Sure.
I was a bit busy at the time, so I'm sorry I didn't answer right away. So.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can talk offline. We can continue to talk offline.